short video series, I'd like to walk you through the process of programming your first part in Inventor HSM. If you plan on following along, go ahead and open My First Part. All of our HSM toolpaths can be found on the CAM tab. So let's go ahead and activate that. And we're going to begin with a facing operation. So we'll click Face. The first thing we need to do is select a tool that we want to use. So click the Tool button. We can browse to our sample libraries and find the Tutorial Inch library. Within the Tutorial Inch library, we're going to select our 2-inch face mill and click Select. With our face mill selected, we simply need to right-click and select OK. Very quickly, we've produced a facing operation across the top of our part. But you'll also notice that we moved from the model browser, where we captured a history of how we modeled the part, to the CAM browser, where we begin to capture a history of how we're going to machine the part. On this CAM browser, the first item is a setup. A setup is used anytime we're going to fixture the part in the machine. If we need to fixture the part multiple times to machine multiple sides of the part, you'd have multiple setups. Now, setups can be created automatically as they were in the case of this facing operation, or you can create a new setup by clicking the setup icon. Let's go ahead and double-click the setup to edit this setup and just take a look at what's captured within a setup. On the first tab of our setup properties, we have the model definition. This captures what model we're machining. In this case, the single part we have. But in the case of an assembly with a vise and the component you want to machine, we'd select just the component that we wanted to machine. We're also defining where our work coordinate system is. We can do this from the properties or visually. I could simply select the node of my work coordinate system and then select a point to move the work coordinate system to that point. I can also select the tip of any one of these arrows to invert the axis. So I've inverted the x-axis, and I just inverted the y-axis. The last thing you should know about the triad is if you click the stem of it and then select a face, that axis will then be perpendicular to the face you've selected. I'm going to go ahead and get the z-axis pointing up again, because remember the z-axis should point at the spindle of our machine. So let's select the stem of that z-axis and select a face we want to have the tool pointing down at. Now, the next tab in our job setup is the Stock tab. The Stock tab defines what the stock is we're machining the part from. There's several methods we can use that define the stock. In this case, we've simply used a bounding box that adds stock around the outside of our part. Let's go ahead and increase the side offset to 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to go ahead and add 1/4 of an inch to the bottom of our part so we can hold on to it in a vise. The final tab controls information for post-processing, but we're going to leave that to the last video where we talk about formatting the code for your specific machine. So at this point, we can go ahead and right-click and say OK to update the stock. Now, anytime we make a change to the stock or any model change in Inventor, our toolpaths need to regenerate. Inventor HSM is going to indicate this by placing a small red X on the toolpath. We'll simply click Generate, and the toolpath will automatically update based on the new stock, or in the case of a model change, based on the new model geometry. So we've quickly learned how to access the CAM tools from within Inventor HSM. We understand what a setup is, and we can see how the operations begin to form underneath a setup. Before we move on to the next video where we'll add the remaining operations, let's go ahead and hit Simulate so we can visualize what this toolpath is going to look like. My current settings have the toolpath set to view only the tail of the toolpath, and I'm showing my stock as transparent. I'll click Play, maybe speed the simulation up a little bit so we can visualize the stock being removed off of our part. I can right-click to close out of the simulation, and we'll now move on to the next video in our series.